What's going on, guys? Chuck here with another awesome Blu-ray purchase. Today I got one of my new releases from the Vinegar Syndrome Black Friday sale, and this was, one I was really excited to pick up. Probably the most excited of all of everything that was released because it's one I had heard of a long time ago. I kind of slightly knew its reputation, and something that the title always intrigued me, and it just made me want to go out and get it. But I know it's had been not available for the longest time. And then once Vinegar Syndrome announced it, I was like, yes, I'm getting that, no questions asked. And that is from 1977, Looking for Mr. Goodbar. Now, my history with this film is really none, other than the fact that, I told you before that my mom used to have a giant shelf of VHS tapes, all recorded tapes, and she had a little booklet where she, kept a record of what was on each tape. She had the little stickers on tape, numbered one, and write them down. And she put the book, and tape one has this, and go on and so forth. That way, if you look for something, you look at the book, you'd find it in the shelf and number tape, and there you go. It was very organized. But I remember going through that book, looking for stuff, because, again, I would just remember through the book trying to find title. Because, like I said, my mom recorded everything and anything, it was on TV, and I would, cable, and I would just look through titles as a pretty little kid and trying to find, ooh, what is this? What is this? What does that mean? That sounds kind of risque. And then I found she had in there Looking for Mr. Goodbar. And for whatever reason, I never watched it. Because I didn't know what it was. I mean, the title to me, I thought it was a comedy, honestly. Because I'd heard, I just saw the title, I was like, that's really weird, wonder what that is, but I never decided to pop it in the VCR and watch it, which is strange because any other time I would, even just for the titles being weird, I would have done that, but I didn't do this one. And so that title always stuck with me for years. And then I heard it was a Diane Keaton film. So Diane Keaton, well, that's got to be a funny movie. Looking for Miss Goodbar, that's got to be some kind of silly comedy with Diane Keaton. Boy, was I wrong. Years later, I would kind of find out a little bit more of what Looking for Mr. Goodbar actually was, and the sense that it was, kind of a, well, I guess at the time, I looking at it, I hear it interpreted as just a woman bar hopping looking for a man. In the generic term, that's what I get from it. Obviously, it's more than that, looking at it, actually seeing the film. But that's what I have. That's the, image that plays in my head for all these years. Of course, it's nowhere to be found. It's out of print. You can't get it anywhere, and I just don't know why. Well, it turns out that it's been out of print for the longest time, mainly because of, I guess, music rights. Hell, I'll get back to that. So yeah, so the Vinegar Syndrome announced it. I buy it. It comes in. Stuff comes in. I grab it, watch it first thing. Because I unfortunately I had the ending spoiled for me. I can't remember where or how. On some, it might have been something, some Watch Mojo or something. I don't know where it was, but the ending was spoiled for me. But it didn't change the feeling the movie had it regardless. And I'm not going to spoil the ending for you if you've never seen it. Excuse me. So yeah, I watched the movie, and back to the music rights. The opening credits alone, I could see could keep this movie from being released, because again, this is 1977, so we're dealing with a woman who's going to enjoy the nightlife, the bars, the disco scene, whatever. There are a lot of popular disco tunes from that era playing in like a montage over the opening credits. I mean, so many popular. So I can see, right there, within the first 2 or 3 minutes, it's gonna be hard to release the movie, because that's really the majority of the songs are in that opening credit. I mean, they're scattered about here and there, but that's the big part, is that whole opening montage of the opening titles. So yeah, that's what kept the movie from being released on physical media or home media. From, I think, VHS was the last release it had, if I have it, my notes right somewhere, but I don't know. So yeah, that's, this is basically its first digital release of any kind. I don't think it's streaming anywhere, but yeah, it's not since VHS. So this is your first, and definitely first, disc based version of it. So what is Looking for Mr. Goodbar? Well, Looking for Mr. Goodbar is the story of, is it Teresa Dunn, played by Diane Keaton, in a fantastic performance. And this is coming, let's see, it's like 5 years after, well, actually, 3 years after Godfather Part 2. And this same year, she will do Annie Hall and win the Academy Award for that picture, which is, it's crazy because Annie Hall and Looking for Mr. Goodbar are like two opposite sides of the spectrum. And she plays them both well. And if you've never seen, I mean, obviously, if you've seen Diane Keaton, you've seen Diane Keaton in The Godfather trilogy. She did a serious role. But a lot of people know Diane Keaton as the funny lady. I love Diane Keaton and stuff like Father of the Bride with Steve Martin and First Wives Club, those kind of things. Older Diane Keaton, but you're getting Diane Keaton in her prime. Of course, for Annie Hall, she's that quirky, funny, silly girl. Teresa Dunn is a very damaged woman in Looking for Mr. Goodbar. She's being brought up in a very strict Catholic home. She's got body image issues that stem from a childhood illness. She's dealing with a father who's very strict. She has her quote unquote perfect sister, but who's got problems that her family doesn't realize, or like dumb knowledge, or whatever the case may be. And she's kind of like turning herself away from all that and just kind of just going out and finding her own thing. In doing some beginning, she's having she's wanting to be a teacher, and that's her thing. She's having an affair with a college professor who's very much a jerk. But in this first kind of a experience for her, it breaks her heart and kind of changes her mentality a lot. And this is where she goes off, stops worrying about love, and just kind of living vicariously, spontaneously, just living the moment, doing whatever, just gonna casual sex and whatever. All the while, her day job, she's become a teacher for deaf children, and she's very good at it, and she's very caring, nurturing, but turning away to the wild, seedy, sex life, which turns into other things. And that's like a very, very generic synopsis, and I don't really want to give too much away. I want to break it whole down again because it's a movie you should really watch. It's very dark. It deals with some dark themes, but it's very open about things like sexuality, and again, we're talking 1970s where you're dealing with more freedom. I guess they talk a lot about women's lib or whatever. I don't know that it's a thing, but that's not a thing, but it's not a thing. I should say. I'm not sure really the issue, like her dad. He's talking about that, but she's going out. She's just finding herself. She's not relying on the norms of what society or her family or religious upbringing tells her she should be. She's just doing her thing, finding herself, having her fun, not living by anybody's rules, and it's kind of what I think the culture was at that time of pre-AIDS, and again, what that sexual freedom, just you're just doing whatever, you're kind of sex, drugs, and rock and roll in a more sense, but maybe that's the rock and roll part. Sex, drugs, and disco. And that's where Terry, or Teresa or Terry, that's where her mentality is. She's not wanting to do the normal thing, the normal life, It's not what she's about. She just kind of avoid that for all her different reasons in life. Um, but again, I don't want to get too much into it because again, it's a film you should experience, and that's I think the best way to describe it is an experience because it's going to take you places. At least for me, where you're like, ooh, you kind of feel for her, and then you're like, okay, what are you doing this? When you're, wow, but you're doing this. uh, it's an interesting ride, and then just to see her, going through what she's doing on the nightclub scene and realizing what her family is. Just I was trying to get away from that kind of thing. There's just a lot going on. And Diane Keaton's character is a very, very troubled individual, and you're really seeing her working out, and it's you feel for her at times. Sometimes you're like questioning her choices, but other times you feel for her. So it's a really good performance by Diane Keaton. Unfortunately, she wasn't nominated for an Oscar for this. Like I said, she was nominated for Annie Hall, but she could have just as well been nominated for this. But luckily, a lot of people say she won the Annie Hall Oscar because he's coming out at the same time, kind of really show her diversity in acting. I don't know if that's the case or not. She's good, very good in both. But again, this is definitely a different Diane Keaton than I've ever seen in a film role. Definitely more daring, more I don't want to say risque, it's not the right word, but it's definitely a more daring performance than I've ever seen from Diane Keaton, which is really good. What's also interesting about this film is that this has a lot of small parts, not really small parts, but you have some actors here that were in very early on. You've got Richard Gere, one of his very earliest roles, kind of playing, a guy Terry meets at the bar, and he's basically just your typical Italian sleazeball kind of thing, the kind of barfly. He's a jerk, very macho, very arrogant, but kind of again, a stereotypical kind of character. But that's Richard Gere, one of his earliest roles. Like I said, you've also got William Atherton as he's like a social worker who's straight laced. He's Terry's family loves him. He's basically wants to romance Terry, have a monogamous relationship, just do the whole courtship thing, which he's not all about. But of course, William Atherton, for those who may recognize the name, they don't recognize the name. He is, I can't remember his name, but he's in Ghostbusters. He's the famous, this man has no dick. that guy. He's also in the most recent Ghostbusters: Frozen Empire. You've also got LeVar Burton, Geordie LaForge himself, in a small role. I think this is right after he did Roots. And then you have Tom Berenger, who plays a very small part, but very pivotal part in it is like this very first film. And that's all I'm going to say about Tom Berenger. So, again, it was surprising to see a lot of these, actors in their very, very earliest roles getting started in this film. But, yeah, Looking for Mr. Goodbar is... in some ways, you can say it's a dark social commentary, maybe. I'm not sure. It is based off a novel, and based off, which the novel itself is based off an actual event. Again, I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to give away the ending. But, the book was very successful, and the film was very successful as well, apparently. I guess the only film that beat it out for a couple weeks was Star Wars, which that tells you a lot. See, it's I don't know if I have a budget here for it. No, but it made like $22.5 million in the box office, so it was a very successful film. And it did get like 2 Oscar nominations. One for I think a supporting actress for Tuesday Weld, which I don't believe she won, and I don't know what the other one was for. But so it was a very, very successful film. And it had some controversy too, apparently, for its subject matter, which is something we'll get into in the special features. But I definitely think it's worth checking out for seeing a totally different performance from Diane Keaton, and just, I don't know. I really don't have the words to describe it, but it's worth a watch. It's dark. It's a dark film, but it has something to say at the same time. Um, and again, I don't want to spoil the ending because it will get you. So, Vinegar Syndrome put out this again. I'm sure it's a partnership with Paramount because they have to keep this and Sliver and Paramount and these nice collectors or editions. And again, this is another great one here. There's a side, and I'm so glad they did this treatment for this film. Here's your slip. Excuse me. And here's the reverse artwork. And yeah, the reverse artwork on this is this here. But so there's that. Oh, interesting side note. There's like a little in joke here too, which actually I think is in the novel, but where Terry is sitting in the bar and she's reading a book in the bar because that's what you do. When she first meets the Richard Gere's character. And the book she's reading is The Godfather. And he makes a comment to her, I saw the movie, Al Pacino, or whatever. It's kind of funny because obviously she was in The Godfather playing opposite Al Pacino, but it's a kind of a cute in joke. I think it's unintentional because I believe it was actually, that's the book she's reading in the actual novel, like I said, so it's still kind of funny they kept that in. So as far as visual effects, as far as special features, okay. You have the 4K UHD disc contains the 136-minute feature presentation of Looking for Mr. Goodbar, presented in Dolby Vision HDR and newly restored from a 35mm original camera negative with the following sound options: original English language mono, soundtrack along with a commentary track with filmmaker, film scholar Jillian Wallace Horvat. Also included is a Blu-ray disc containing everything on UHD disc plus the following special features. First comes the word. Richard Brooks and the making of Looking for Mr. Goodbar, which is 23 minutes. It's an interview with Douglas K. Daniel, author of Tough as Nails, The Life and Films of Richard Brooks. This is interesting. It's kind of giving you a history of Richard Brooks' career and what he went through all around. But, the good portion of it is about Looking for Mr. Goodbar. But more or less, it's kind of an abbreviated history of Richard Brooks. Let's see. Studs Terkel interview from 1976 with Looking for Mr. Goodbar author Judith Rossner. This is strictly audio. It's from, a radio interview, which it's about 13 minutes. And it's interesting to hear the author's perspective on the book and the characters on the meeting. It's real quick. Again, it's just strictly audio. There's a picture of her on the screen the whole time, and that's it. Defining autonomy: the trial of Looking for Mr. Goodbar, which is 30 minutes. And this was interesting. It's a visual essay by Brent Cowley on the obscenity trial following the film's theatrical release in Utah. I watched this. Visual essay is not quite the right word because, first of all, this is broken up into like 5 or 6 chapters. You can just start it and play all the way straight through, or watch each chapter. But it's not actually a visual essay because all you're showing is the title of the chapter the whole time that the person is talking and telling the story of basically this obscenity trial in Utah, where they were at the time, doing their own editing of film and home media just for their own sensibilities. And it's actually an interesting story, how it's, what happened with this obscenity trial and for this film. I just wish they would have, used more pictures to make it a more visual essay, across the screen, as opposed to just the, title and each chapter. It's just as a title. That's it. It's kind of takes you out. If you want a visual essay, you hope to have something visual to look at. And then you have the theatrical trailer and radio spots. So that's all. I have not listened to the audio commentary, but that's one I think I will check out because I'm really interested to hear a discussion about the film. And of course, you've got the booklet, which is here's. I am my own girl. I belong to me. But so, yep, just your typical little booklet here, which should be an interesting read. So, I also want to point out there was, I guess, an issue with this film with people who had Dolby Vision, apparently, watching a film where almost towards the end of the film where the disc would just stop playing. I saw that on social media, and I think somewhere like Vinegar Syndrome addressed that, and basically saying if we've had the Dolby Vision, just turn it off, and it shouldn't be a problem. But I don't know if they're going to put out. If there was I don't know if there's notice they're going to put out a replacement disc or not. I will tell you, I had no problems. Of course, I don't have Dolby Vision. I stopped. This is in HDR10, and that's, I just watched it on the TV, not the projector, but both have HDR10. And the TV played fine, had no problems. It looked great. The sound was excellent for just a 2.0. What's it, mono or stereo? What was it? I don't remember. Let me take a little look. Bear with me. Original English language mono, yeah. Sorry, but it sounded good. I mean, it's very crisp, very clean. And again, with your mono on a multi speaker system, is you're going to basically focusing on primarily your front three speakers. And everything, it sounded, the music was great. The dialogue was crisp. It was clean. Everything was good. The picture was, looked good, very crisp. It has it's a darkly shot film. Again, it really gives you that feel of, they don't say where they're at, but it's almost like New York. It's what it looks like. It may not be New York. I'm not sure. I don't think they really say where they're at, like I said. But you're watching the nightlife and you see all the street signs of the bars and the strip clubs and all this other stuff. It has a dark, grimy film, but it feels very authentic and very film-like. So it looks and sounds really good. I mean, this is an excellent 4K. I am so glad to have finally seen this and experienced it, and in such a great presentation here by Vinegar Syndrome. So hats off to them. Again, the only problem that apparently there is for those watching it with Dolby Vision. I can't speak to that. I didn't have that problem, like I said, with the HDR10, and it played perfectly smooth, no problems whatsoever. I recommend looking for Mr. Goodbar, but if you're okay with open sexuality and the grimy underworld of bar hopping in the 1970s, if you can handle that, check it out. If not, move on. Yeah. But if you do like this film, if you're wanting to see it like I have, this is definitely the way to get it and check it out. I highly recommend picking this up from Vinegar Syndrome. Okay, so that is it for now. If you enjoyed this, click thumbs up, share, subscribe, leave me a comment below. Let me know your thoughts, and if you've been wanting to see it, looking for Mr. Goodbar, if you have seen it. If you have seen it, don't spoil anything, please. Again, this is a movie I want people to experience, because you need to experience it. Or just say hi. I'll always take hi. So until next time, this is Chuck saying I will see you on the other side.